Formula.
3, 2, 1.
Hey all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hello, how are we doing today? Y'all might need y'all pencil and paper just to take a few notes today. Walaikum assalam. We're going back to the young lady's video because she still said a lot. She managed to tie in capitalism to it. She did. So the first half, we're going to talk about more of the femininity coach and the issues of femininity. I'm really aware of them today. So please excuse me if you see or you hear me kind of pause. My apologies for that. I'm aware of them today. Most days I forget that they're there. Today is not one of those days. So can I get 100 likes? So bam, 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 bam. You gotta hit the like button. Bam, bam. You gotta Hey handsome. Hey Philip. He said, hey beautiful. Hey handsome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you kicking us off this way. I really, really appreciate it. So I'm not going to waste too much time. We're already 7 minutes in. Let's go ahead. Let us share the screen. I might have to back this clip up though. I'm gonna have to back it up.
Energy out there. If the goal of this is to the 19th century, but by the 1960s, their popularity decreased dramatically. And as a result of our bodies having been historically exploited, stereotypes are used to justify actions. For example, in the United States, be polite or be emotionally intelligent. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be those things, and
here's what I wanted to do.
Sometimes just avoid planning dates because it is doing energy, which is masculine. To stop trying to compete with men because they have certain traits that women just don't possess. To be fair, some of these coaches recognize that it is unrealistic to only have feminine energy and admit that there are certain times and places for masculine energy, but my biggest thing is just like, why can't you be yourself? I feel like it creates unnecessary stress to worry about if you're putting masculine or feminine energy out there. If the goal of this is to be a pleasant person, that shouldn't be gendered. But two of the biggest issues with these femininity coaches is that their advice largely centers around changing yourself for a man in order to be in a relationship, and that it places too much of a premium on respectability and appearance. So let's talk about the man issue first.
Let's not. Let's talk about the other issues first. Other issues first. Because one of the things that she said was she's talking about competing. Thank you, Hank. Competing. In competition with. This is the other lie of feminism that Black women have really taken on. That it's okay to compete with the men, or that we are actually in some kind of competition with them. Let's go down to what's really the problem. Thank you, Red Stick. So let's put these nails in these coffins. Let's put these nails in these coffins. You right about that. Hey, that's it. Let's go down to the root of the whole we're in competition with the men, or femininity is in competition with masculinity. Feminism made that up. The general body of men in a society have no inclination to compete with women at all. Because it's feminism that told everybody that everybody was equal, and you're not. You're not. You're not. We are not the same. Men and women are equal in their humanity. Men and women and children are equal in their humanity. All the same, across the board, 100%. 100% equal in humanity. There is absolutely no difference in my humanity and a man's humanity. Absolutely none. Even if we take it to a spiritual place or a religious place, even though Allah created men and women differently, heaven and hell is for both. Is it not? Excuse me. It was Allah that created men and women differently, with different roles, with different abilities, with different specialties, with different predispositions. Heaven and hell is for both. That's because your humanity is equal. Your spirituality is equal. That's equal. Feminism told women that only 2 + 2 is 4. It neglected to tell them so was 3 + 1. You understand that? Feminism taught Black women, taught all the women, but Black women took it in, that only 2 + 2 is 4. 3 + 1 is also 4. But Black women don't want to hear about being 3 + 1. They only want to hear about being 2 + 2. We are not meant to compete between femininity and masculinity, between men and women. We are meant to complement, because the problem with the concept of competition is also the concept of fairness. The concept of fairness, when we talk about competition, we typically want a competition to be fair, and we want the competition to be between equally capable forces. Thank you, Ismail. Thank you so much. However, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. NFL teams compete with one another. The worst team in the NFL gonna eventually have to compete with the best team in the NFL. Right? And the reason why the worst team in the NFL gotta still compete against the best team in the NFL and it is still considered to be fair is because they're all men, they're all professional athletes, they're playing the same game with the same rules, okay, in the same conditions on the field. So that is as equal and as fair as it can be possibly made. That's where the term any given Sunday come from. Because on any given Sunday, the worst team can pluck up and beat the best team. And we've seen it plenty of times, those of us who watch the NFL. They'll get their gumption up and call themselves really come for the best team. It's usually the worst team that the best team faces that they really got to worry about, because they'll call themselves, you know, they'll get up for us. You know what I'm saying? They lay down for the rest of the league and then they get up for us. Because that is the nature of competition. To make things as fair as you possibly can. Now, of course, there are different factors, you know, the talent of the team, whether the coaches came up with a good plan, but that's on you, whether or not you're a good coach or a good player. Every team has as fair of a shot as possible winning each game. Now, here's where competition become unfair. Thank you, Luke Casey. So much, sweetheart. A football player, I don't care if he is a Hall of Fame, Pro Bowl football player, cannot equally compete against a figure skater in figure skating. Can't do it. Gonna go over there and get embarrassed by a female figure skater. Gonna be embarrassed. Them little bitty waif of women that are over there. I know it's male figure skaters, but I'm thinking about the women. Because even though there are male figure skaters, we generally think of figure skating as a feminine sport. Thank you, Too Tall. Your best Hall of Fame football player not gonna go over there to that figure skater and in her rink and do nothing with her. She gonna literally skate circles around him, literally. And it's gonna be funny. Because everybody knows, professional athlete or not, he can't do that. It's a different skill set. It's a different skill set. It's a different sport with different rules. It's completely different. Cannot do it. Equally, she cannot, as a figure skater and as a professional athlete, come to a football field and do anything. Completely different skill set. Why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this because when we talk about competition, we have to decide upon what the terms are for that competition. Whose field are we playing on? Competing on what grounds? Competing in what area? We got to decide how we gonna compete. How to make the competition as fair as possible. That's why when we talk about sports, there are rules, the same rules, same restrictions, all that other stuff, to try to make it fair. But feminism said that women should compete with men, but had to compete with men on men's terms. Why did they have to compete with men on men's terms? Who knows? Who knows the answer? Why did they do that? Why did they choose to compete with men on the terms of men rather than have the men compete with women on the terms of women? The reason why feminism decided that women needed to compete with men on the terms of men is because men set the society anyway, and those were his terms. Number two, feminism saw men's arenas and areas of work as more valuable than what women were known for or valued for. So therefore, it was feminism that devalued what women did and placed a value on what men did. Because the things that men were doing were considered to be better, or at least it gave them a higher status in society. So they devalued what women did, quote unquote, women's work, and put more of a value on quote unquote men's work. Now we're going to come back to that point later on in the second half. I need 200 likes. Come on, bam, 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 bam. You got to hit the like button, bam, bam. You got to, Right? So let's talk about femininity coaches and trying to get women to change to become more acceptable or to get into relationships with men, and saying, why can't you just be yourself without worrying about whether or not you put forth more masculine energy or more feminine energy? So here's the thing, and I'm going to speak for me because I'm not a dating coach. I'm not an etiquette coach. I don't sit here and try to talk about what, purse you should pair with what kind of shoes and what kind of jewelry you should wear and what kind of hat, if you should wear a hat, if you shouldn't wear a hat. I don't do that. And I'm not knocking the ladies that do. I just don't do it here on the Crimson Cure. Okay? I'm not knocking the ladies who do talk about whether or not you should wear a skirt below your knees, a pencil skirt, a sundress, pearls or chains. What kind of perfume or what kind of nails you should do. I don't have anything against that, because that has its place in the wheelhouse of femininity. That does have its place. That's not my area. That's not my area. And there were femininity coaches in the past that used to come for me because of that. Because I wasn't talking about the outward refinement and the look of women. Well, she's too masculine to be talking about femininity. Where is she feminine? Touche. But I'm talking about the femininity of your mindset. I'm talking about approaching life with feminine energy and not masculine energy. Right? Because those things, dressing well, women dressing well and dressing in a more feminine thing, in a more feminine way, that has its place. Men like to look at women who are dressed well, who are well appointed, and who look feminine. That's fine. But what about what's going on inside of her? That was my point. That was my area. What about the misandry that comes out of her mouth? And you know that if that came out of her mouth, what's in her heart is worse than that. But she's well appointed. She's got the right pair of shoes on, paired with the right purse, paired with the right, do you understand what I'm saying? She walked by you and she just smelled like a field of flowers. You can't get enough. But if you try to talk to her, she looks at you and devalues you because you're a man. It matters. Before I say that, Crimson Cure is not talking about only altering or being in your feminine energy solely to get into a relationship with a man. That is a wonderful, beautiful byproduct of that. I'm talking about being a woman specifically aimed at Black women because it is pushback against the gynocracy. We have been destroyed by all the concepts of feminism because it is a destabilizer of communities and countries. Every time you want to destabilize a country, among the steps that you do to it is, first of all, you colonize it. Later on, you introduce feminism to it. You convince the women that the men of their group have devalued them on the biological level, which is not true. It matters when Black women show up in masculine energy or feminine energy, because not only do men regard you differently, the world regards you differently. Because people's biology has never changed. The social construct changes. But at their core, human biology does not change. What people believe about biology can change, but the biology itself does not change. It is the same. Men respond biologically to whether or not men respond biologically to masculine and feminine energy before any cultural concepts come into play with him. So when you show up as a woman in any arena with men, whether that is a personal romantic relationship, or whether that is a job relationship, whether you coming into corporate America or whatever the case may be, you are interacting with men because men are in the world. And they are not required to change their biological responses because feminism said it was toxic masculinity for them to do so. When women and men are co-working, she can show up with feminine energy and get a completely different response from the men around her than if she shows up in masculine energy, which the men perceive as combative. The men perceive that masculine energy as masculine. So they begin to compete with it because you're in the work environment with me. We competing for that promotion. So I'm not going to help you with your work. The world don't respond to black women the way black women want them to respond biologically because she doesn't show up in biological truth. You show up with that foolishness in your head about how you got to be strong and how you got to be masculine. And then you allow feminism to convince you that that doesn't matter, that you're showing up in masculine or feminine energy doesn't have any sway on the outcome of how people perceive you and thus treat you. That's why black women have, again, this gripe about lack of protection and consideration of her womanhood. We can't consider your womanhood if you're not showing up in it, sis. We cannot consider your womanhood if you refuse to show up as a woman. And before I go to break, let's talk about women adapting in order to get into relationships, fulfilling healthy relationships with men. What happens to an organism that is unable to adapt to its environment for survival? What happens to that organism? There's a word for that. What does that organism do? In the evolution of this world, what does an organism do? What do we call organisms that cannot adapt? They are extinct. Organisms that were unsuccessful at adapting to the changes of its environment in order to survive died. If women are unable and unwilling to adapt in her new environment to actually survive and get into a relationship, what does she do? She dies. Theoretically, socially, and if she keep it up, physically. So if we're so smart as a group of women, why don't we know about adaptation? Why don't we take a hint about adaptation? The reason why the human being has survived this long is because we adapt. We are not physically the strongest. There are millions of various species of animal that could take us out in the blink of an eye. We can't fly. We can't run very fast. We're not particularly strong. We don't have claws. We don't have fangs. We don't have poison. We don't have none of that stuff. But you know what we got? Allah gave us, the Arabic term for it is aql, intelligence. He gave the human being intelligence. so that we may use it to gain an advantage over the other animals in the animal kingdom that have more brawn than us. That's why we here. That's why we here. When you watch the movie Planet of the Apes, the reason why the apes became superior is because of this. Not only did they gain equal intelligence to man, they gained equal intelligence to man to pair with their natural biological advantage. It's fiction, but I'm using it. Especially the newer trio of movies. I love those. The great apes have a physical advantage over man. And then he got the brain. That was it. Mankind was out of there. It was a done deal because can't compete now. I'll be back with a commercial break. And then we're going to go back to this young lady because she's going to say a doozy. She's going to bring out something else that we really need to talk about. That we're going to talk about today and I'm going to go into depth with tomorrow.
When I'm training for professional competitions, men and women always ask me for advice. To women, I say push yourself harder than you ever have before and go beyond your comfort zone. Focus on your goals. Men, if I am willing to push myself to become Mr. Olympia in 2022, then I only have one thing to say to you. Bring your A game.
Here we go again.
I actually really love that commercial because it shows the women in the gym too. It shows the women in the gym too. And we need to be in the gym on our A game too. So I actually love that commercial because it's actually an inspiration to me personally too. So although I can't take an A game pill, ladies, we still can be on our A game, right? With our diet, with our exercise, and we give the men the A game so we can get exercise and then exercise and then exercise, y'all. That's what Spanky's wife was trying to. That she ran for the exercise. Y'all know that, don't y'all? I see y'all don't like this. The folks don't like this series. I usually have more people. Anyway. Need to be said though. Anyway. Let's go back.
First, a huge part of femininity content is centered around dating and relationships, with the end goal being to marry a high-value man. This is also known as hypergamy, the practice of marrying up into a higher social class. In an article on femininity coaching in Refinery 29, Shantae Joseph sums up the issue with how femininity coaches tend to frame these kinds of relationships. There are a million ways to be a woman, yet as these coaches proliferate, women from...
That's problematic right there. There are a million ways to be a woman, but according to these same women, it's only one or two ways for men to be men. Read that. Before she reads it out, read what's on your screen. There are a million ways to be a woman. Is that so? So what that tells us is that being a woman is this very vague nebulous thing that nobody can pinpoint. This is why tea parties can do what they do. And then they're up there, now they're talking about, oh, we're born women. We're born women, so that there can no longer be a difference between biological women and people who want to, quote unquote, identify through gender as a woman. You understand why that was the first lie? To separate gender from the biological piece, so they could do that kind of stuff. We are women too. Are you now? Yet as these cultures proliferate, women from all walks of life are being taught or even groomed to secure a financially stable marriage where there is no incentive for the man to be perfect for the woman. Says who? Where are they getting that from? Men do what they do to get women. That a lot of times be at least in the top 3 to 5 motivations for why men do what they do. Let's get a woman somewhere. Because he's actually thinking about how to provide the 4 P's to somebody other than himself. He's actually thinking about that. There's no incentive for the man to be perfect for the woman. I'm gonna break that down. All he has to do, as if this is small, is fulfill the nondescript, now we saying it's nondescript, role of provider.
From all walks of life are being taught or even groomed to secure a financially stable marriage where there is no incentive for the man to be perfect for the woman. All he has to do is fulfill the nondescript role of provider. Femininity coaches Raven.
Let me get to that first before I promise I'm not gonna go too super long. But I gotta talk about that a little bit. Because since the advent of feminism in its 90th wave, whatever wave of it we're in, women's demands on men's so-called nondescript provision title have become more and more restrictive and specific and unrealistic. Isn't that so? Women want men to be perfect. He's got to be perfect. It's not enough for him to come in and make $50,000, $60,000 a year and just have you and him. No, I can't deal with a man that's not making at least $150,000. What's wrong with you? You don't got $150,000 and no access to it and ain't never put your hands on it. Now all of a sudden you got a demand. Just had an individual on a panel tell us about the demand for a $30K minimum ring, went from not knowing what kind of ring it was going to be to saying it was a Cartier. All men do is attempt to do the things that they know the women that they value and want them to do. That's what they want. That's what they do. Because men compete all the time in various areas. They're competing against each other. They're competing for certain things, women among them. So that role, how is his 4 P's nondescript? How is it that all of a sudden it's nondescript? Here's the description of it right here. It's not nondescript. We got a description. We got a description for provision. He produces masculine light. That's not money. That's not even money. That's not even concrete. That is abstract. He produces masculine light, giving him the ability to look ahead and or prepare in advance. That would be his foresight. Something else that's not money. He generates stability, not money, in the form of ideas, not money. Supplies, that's not quite money. Food, that's not money. Finances, that's money. Clothing, housing, etc. We got that's not nondescript. That is a description. That is a definition. And a nondescript. Men's roles have never been nondescript. Men's roles in society and within the family structure have always been highly descriptive, specific. There are specific expectations that women have and that the society has of men. Specifically, it is now women, due to feminism, that don't think that womanhood or femininity or that women have or need to have a specific set of expectations placed on them that values or that increases or decreases her value as a woman. Her being born a woman, whether she was biologically born that or just identify with it up here, should be value enough. But men, even under this libertarian thought pattern, are not looked at that way. He's got specific things that either increases value or decreases value in the eyesight of the society and in the eyesight of women. So don't come in here telling me about men's roles is nondescript. Men have always had a very specific set of things that people expected of them. We still expect them to be the providers. We expect those 4 P's. We expect them. Men who do not give them or who do not give them adequately are not deemed valuable men. They are deemed F-19s, F-boys, lame, effeminate. He ain't about nothing. He ain't doing nothing. If a man cannot put forward these 4 P's to a high level, he's not considered worth anything. And 2022, women are feminists and all, equal and all, 6 figures and all, tell you she ain't rocking with no man that's not doing that. I ain't building no man if he come through with not enough money, if he come through not problem solving, if he come through not putting up structures, if he come through not protecting you, if he come through not procreating with you. Now, girl, he ain't on nothing. Girl, you need to leave that scrub alone. Now, girl, no, couldn't be me. Girl, I could never. Girl, what you talking to him for? Or sit somewhere and actually be disgusted met a man that wasn't showing up with his masculinity intact, all of a sudden we know what masculinity is. See, feminists is all cap because they know what make a man, but don't nothing really make a woman. They know exactly what make a man, but don't nothing really make a woman. When you talk about the male side of that list, oh yeah, he's supposed to provide, he's supposed to problem solve, supposed to protect, he's supposed to procreate, yeah, he's supposed to have some order, yeah, he's supposed to have leadership, yeah, he's supposed to be selfless. I don't know about that polygamy, he cheating, but you know I want him strong, and he need to build. But when we get to talking about female inside, you know, they just want us to be cute. And they don't want us to have a submit. What's wrong with hypergamy? Now you got a problem. Because there's a million ways to be a woman, supposedly. This is why you don't hear a whole lot about Tea Party men. Women to men tea parties. You don't hear no whole lot about them. You know why? Because when they do come out and talk, you know what I've heard? Press a 1 in the chat if you want to know what I heard about it. Know why we don't hear about that? Know what I heard? Not more, not, you know what I'm saying, fewer than 5 or 6 times just over social media in the last month or so. The white ones and the black ones. When they transition from female to male, they say, oh, no. Life is much harder as a man. We thought life would be easier as a man. It's not. The expectation for you to perform in certain ways is staggering. It's not easier to be no man. A woman, when I was being perceived as a woman, my life was much easier. And then, thank you, Shay, and then they get depressed about it. And a lot of them try to come back from that. But if you post up, sorry for you. You cut your toolbox, you know, or you got that little toolbox, that little fake toolbox, that little Tyco Fisher Price toolbox that they done put on you. It ain't the real toolbox, you know, Makita tools, you know, that come in that red chest that be in men's garages and stuff, you know, them tools, them was the tools they was born with. You done popped up with a Fisher Price toolbox. Don't nobody. I'm going to let her talk. Because I really want her to get to this point.
Marrying up as a form of empowerment, and while it can financially empower the women who are able to do so, that's as far as its empowerment extends. It's not really doing anything to improve the position of women as a whole. It's interesting because this idea of marrying rich and being a housewife has kind of gained traction even in more lighthearted, joking contexts. And obviously I understand where people are coming from, like if you didn't have to work in an office for 40 hours a week, why would you? But I think this rhetoric inadvertently implies that being a housewife isn't real work, which is far from true. Femininity, especially the version these coaches promote, is heavily associated with taking care of the household. But this notion has less to do with the nature of women and more to do with the nature of capitalism.
And this is where we come into the cap. Interesting is capitalism, the cap. This is where we gonna come to the cap. Y'all ready? I pause it so you can listen. Thank you, Phineas, for the collection play afternoon. Afternoon, sweetheart. And thank you, Dante. I want y'all to listen real carefully because we're going to have to go in on this one tomorrow. This point right here. Because remember she just said taking care of the house and all that kind of stuff had nothing to do with women and the natural inclination of women. Yes, it do. Because women in 2022 go and do all that schooling and turn around and don't want to do nothing. She want to sit at home. Nobody said housework and raising kids wasn't no work. Feminism told us that that was not work. That was not worthy work. That it devalued women to be so-called barefoot and pregnant in the house. That a woman that was doing that was a stay-at-home wife and mother, was an abused woman. She was a woman under the Bootheel of men. She was a woman that didn't have power. She was the woman that didn't know her power. She was the woman that was the pick-me, the goofball, the stupid woman. That's what feminism got us.
I'm always going to find a way to incorporate capitalism into this. Don't you worry. Italian feminist Silvia Federici coined the concept of the patriarchy of the wage, which is the idea that under capitalism, wage relations are used to create and maintain gender hierarchies. In a 2017 interview with Revolutionary Left Radio, Federici talks extensively
to create, again, separating it from the biological piece and making it cultural and environmental.
About this idea, which she wrote about in her book, Caliban and the Witch. She notes that with the advent of capitalism, the whole area of reproductive activity, housework, procreation, etc., is declared off the economic radar. This, she says, is one of the major transformations that takes place in social relations. In this interview, Federici shows how...
Now the cap here, as she repeats what she read, the cap of what she read was the reversal of trying to say that the environment changed the biology. Yeah, okay. I need to look at you when I say this. I need y'all to understand what was just said. The white lady she's quoting is all cap because they say things and then they leave out key parts because we don't understand bio-culture, and they know we don't. We don't understand biology, culture, and environment. They do, and so therefore they're able to switch the words around and have you feeling like you coming up on some knowledge when really they are taking bits and pieces in and out to confuse you. When it's talked about the so-called patriarchy of the wage, that is the environment. Environment includes the institutions. That's the legal. But environment is influenced by biology and culture. So they able to tell us that our biology is a result of the environment rather than the environment being a result of biology. This is how they twist us. This is how they twist us. And we have to be able to understand that. This is why Crimson Cure don't just talk about the relationship between men and women and getting a man and which perfume gonna make his eyes water. And all. We talk about the real stuff. How we got to this. How we got into this. What is it about the working of the world that Black people do not understand that they understand? The environments change because of biology and then culture. And the human being evolves. The civilization itself evolves. Culture evolves. Listen a little bit more, and then we'll be right back.
Housework became feminized under capitalism, and I'm just gonna quote this big ass chunk of transcript because she says it so well. In the feudal period, or in any society where production is for consumption, you don't have a separation between production and reproduction. If you have a community or village where the peasantry produces for its own use, you don't have a separation between production and reproduction, because what you produce is also reproducing you. For example, today in many parts of Africa or Latin America, the process of reproduction or domestic work begins by putting seeds in the land. You grow food, you grow enough for the market, but you also grow enough for your family. It's what you eat. So that agricultural labor, that subsistence agriculture, is production and reproduction at the same time.
Which is true. However, what does that have to do with the masculine and feminine role? Because we're talking about an agrarian society. And in agrarian societies, there is no such thing as feminism. You cannot introduce feminism into an agrarian society. You cannot do it. However, in such a society where the economy is driven by agriculture, men and women still have their roles. In fact, it's more traditional because it's necessary for survival. That's why you can't introduce feminism to it. Even then, in an economy that is driven by agriculture, who's doing the labor-intensive task? Who's doing the labor-intensive task, men or women? The men. The men do the labor-intensive task. Even though we are talking about an agrarian or agriculturally driven society, the women still did housework because the children, the sick, and the elderly still had to be tended to. The homestead still needed tending. So then you have the same concept you have in the industrial age and post-industrial age, which is the division of labor. The division of labor purpose, the definition of division of labor is the assignment of different parts of a manufacturing process or task to different people in order to improve efficiency. If we live in an agrarian society, thank you again, Ismail. So hearing you talk is like walking into a library and learning a new word, agrarian society. No problem. You had to be efficient. See, too many of us in 2022 think of agrarian cultures as somehow stupid because they're pre-industrial age. So somehow they're dumb and that there's no order to what they're doing. They just dumb farmers going out there, got no place to do, just come out. No, that's not how that works. There is a strict order to it, actually, and a skill set, and it must be efficient because it takes so much time. It takes time to plant and then time to harvest. That is cyclical within the year. Depending on what you plant and harvest, that all may not come in the same year. The men are doing the more laborious task. Why? Because biologically, he can do it. He must do it. He's physically stronger. He can endure longer hours. He can do more things. Women's work still needed to be done. And she helped. She helped in the field too. You know, I'm going to help him plant. But the kids also got to be reared and raised. He doesn't have time to do that. Pre-industrial, post-industrial. He don't have time. It doesn't matter the nature of the work. So then they have division of labor. To create efficiency, somebody got to do something else. And it just makes more sense that if the men are more physically capable of the more physically demanding tasks, you give the less physically demanding tasks to women, but those tasks are typically more taxing on her patience and her emotional self. Men don't even like dealing with little children for long periods of time, even their own. They don't like it. They like the little baby as long as he can do this and the baby ain't crying. Soon as that baby start get to fussing and he can't make it stop, where he coming to with that baby? Where is he coming to? He coming straight to you. You got make. I don't know what they want. Men do not like children and interacting with them until the children have some semblance of independence, can follow a verbal order. That is when men begin to enjoy the company of children. And even then, it taxes his patience and his emotional energy. Thank you, Terenzo, said corporation. Did I thank you before? Was that you? Did I thank you before? Corporation, dead, aura, shun, ignore, shine through NLP. In phonetics, all these words speak life into or death versus that or death, which means knowledge. Thank you. Men only enjoy The company of children, when children have some independence and autonomy, they can take verbal orders and verbal cues. Then he spends more time with them because it's not so much on his patience. And then even then, depending on their age, they kind of getting on his nerve because children are what? Chaotic. Children are chaotic. Children are selfish. Children have to be constantly brought into order so he can hand them back to you. I done took them out for ice cream. That's about all I can do this weekend. Thank you again to Renzo, said correction into existence. Thank you. After a while, I took them for ice cream. I don't know what you want me to do. That's not them not loving their children. That's just the way they're biologically wired. That's why women rear and raise kids. I'm going to continue this part of it tomorrow. I know not too many people like to show up to this one, but this needs to be talked about. I urge you to tune in tomorrow with your pencil and paper ready. Y'all know what time it is though, right? What time is it? It's A game, A game, A game, A game. Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you. A game is a male herbal solution so that the men can always be on their A game. This addresses blood flow, which helps him with his strength, his energy, his vitality, and his libido. So you don't want to not be on your A game. I could have swore I pinned that to the top. But anyway, somebody put a link. Matter of fact, let me do it. I'm going to pin it to the top. Sometimes I think I forget to pin it. And that'd be my issue. Sometimes I forget to pin it. So it is easy to become part of the A Game family. All you got to do is click the link that is now at the top of the chat, agameherbal.com, and you can get a 10% discount using the code Kendra10. And you can have this box of awesomeness on its way to you ASAP. I know so many people in my chat have ordered this. Listen, a wonderful 5-star product with 5-star service. It's awesome. Do you understand what I'm telling you? The men that I know in my life all use this. And they swear by it. Okay? So, I want to thank everyone for their contributions. I want to thank everyone for their time. Hey, Jay. I want to thank everyone for their time. And I also want to give a warm thank you for my team that always supports me, without which I cannot give you content. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, Crimsonites. Hey, guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor, who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.